Shalom, first and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rukal Kadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who are teaching this truth in sincerity. And shout out to Yakim that's out there on four corners of the earth proclaiming this truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rukal Kadash, Bracha Tum. So, I'm not even going to waste any time with this. I'm just going to straight up say, look, here's another rumor of war, which is dealing with Ezekiel's prophecy that Gomer and all his bands would enter into this war. And so what has happened is Gomer has now invaded Iraq again, because they've invaded Iraq many a times before. But pretty much, because they have deemed the Kurds as a terrorist group, which in many ways they are a terrorist group. But you've seen moves like this before, but not to this level. Even during Desert Storm, after the U.S. part of it, they bombed the shit out of Iraq and then just kind of left them in power. And then Saddam went after the Kurds, and then the Kurds kind of fled into Turkey. And then Turkey kind of, started to push them back into Iraq. Well, so that happened then, as like everything else, though. The Kurds are Edomites. I mean, let's just face it, though. They are what you call British mixed up with Ishmael, and so they just call themselves Kurds, which we know that, when they had separated the countries back in 1929, Iraq was a state it was a statehood run under the UK, and Syria was a statehood that was run under France. So you can see why France and UK's interest in these wars. Nonetheless, though, Gomer has now entered into Iraq again, just like they did about a year or two ago as well. And that they've been invaded Syria. I mean, they've taken over Afrin and other places, but pretty much, man, Gomer and all his bands have been very well involved with this, because they protect the terrorists as well, because they had to deal with the U.S. They kind of play both sides. They had to deal with the U.S. whore for the Free Syrian Army, which were their terrorists trained, as well as, Saudi Arabia would have theirs, and just, either way, though, it's just to destabilize. Well, nonetheless, though, Turkey has invaded Iraq, and this is from the last American vagabond.
Laws are no longer really, they don't really hold sway anymore. That if you're powerful enough, you can just do what you want. And maybe you're doing something for the greater good, or maybe you're using that as an excuse to cover for your nefarious actions. Both are certainly possible. And now, of course, we have Turkey invading Iraq under the same flimsy pretense that the U.S. has been doing, and I'm very interested to see how the U.S. responds to this. Both that they're a NATO ally and that they're doing something that the U.S. would not allow anybody else to do. Turkey invades northern Iraq in operation against Kurdish militants. So, fighting terrorism, so it's all good that we just violate the sovereignty of a country. And even more interesting, a country that the U.S. is also currently occupying, so it kind of just adds to this interesting narrative of the kind of tag teaming between Turkey in regard to Syria, which is something that I've continued to see. And I could still be mistaken on this. But my impression of this ongoing ridiculous, the narratives from both Turkey and the United States in regard to Syria, at the end of the day, all the words and narratives aside, what has ultimately happened? NATO allies have continued to further increase in taking or trying to take Syrian territory, as the U.S. has actually been driven back because it's failing in its efforts to do so. But there's also, Turkey is in a large way at odds with U.S. policy, so it's very interesting. Thank you for the super chat. But what I think truly at the overarching agenda is to take Syria. That's a NATO agenda. It seems very clear to me, with Israel behind it as well. And I think this is just an extra part of that. But outside of even that topic, what we have to recognize is this is happening now. And imagine, let's just say, if another country that's supposed to be an adversary all of a sudden does this and says, well, we're fighting terrorism, so we had to invade France. Because there's terrorists in France, we can prove it. And they probably could prove it. But the reality is that's just simply not an okay excuse, but it's allowed for U.S. allies, specifically Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the United States. Now, Turkey has launched a cross-border operation into neighboring Iraq against what they claim is Kurdish militants in a mountainous northern region of the country. Now, the Turkish Defense Ministry confirmed its military unleashed a barrage of artillery fire and airstrikes on Monday afternoon. before ground forces entered northern Iraq to, they claim, quote, demolish the caves and shelters that are being used by terrorist groups to eliminate terrorists. That's as simple as that, right? There's terrorists there, so it's all good. By what the precedent the U.S. has set, as long as I scream the word terrorist, I can just do what I want. And it's also possible that they are, in fact, targeting terrorists. But the point is, when did it become okay to just take the claims of the aggressing country while they're currently violating international law? It shouldn't be okay. It's not okay. But it's being forced okay by U.S. allies. Do you think this would be okay for, Maduro or Assad to all of a sudden just force its way into its neighboring country because they claim there's terrorism there? Of course, because they're the bad guys, so that just wouldn't fly. But this is the ridiculous narrative we find ourselves in, and now we're finding allied countries taking very aggressive moves like this that they've kind of painted themselves into a corner here. Now, the Turkish Defense Ministry confirmed I'm sorry, I just reread the same part. The quote from the article confirmed the unleashed barrage of artillery fire and airstrikes on Monday afternoon before ground forces entered northern Iraq, again, to demolish these caves. Now, not only has Turkey not been bashful about routinely violating sovereignty of both Iraq and Syria, ostensibly just to fight terrorists. That's it. And again, when you can very, very clearly show that Turkey in no way is fighting terrorism, and in fact actually helping the fomentation of this across these areas, but see, this doesn't play a factor. We're just supposed to take them at face value. Oh, well, they're fighting terrorism, so go ahead and violate the sovereignty of these countries.
And that's just it, though. Under guise of fighting ISIS, under guise of fighting terrorist groups, PKK is a terrorist organization, all the same utter rhetoric. But nonetheless, though, this war is going to continue. I'm going to read some more articles here. And this article reads, Hamas allegedly restored ties with the Syrian government. So, here's another reason why Amalek is bombing Syria, right? Because the terrorist group that they control, Hamas, is now supposedly tied with the Syrian government, as this article reads. Like I said, this thing is loaded with commercials, so Slovakia for that. But nonetheless, though, I'll read it to the best of my abilities. And this, the head of Hamas' political wing, Ismaili Haniyeh, told Sputnik Arabic that his organization has adopted the Syrian government's position on the Syrian opposition and their armed groups. Oh, so Syrian opposition. So, this means that, under guys now, because remember, Hamas, this proves our point. All right, Hamas is a controlled terrorist group by the Israeli state, but now all of a sudden they have ties to ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Sham groups. According to Sputnik, Hanna said that his organization has good ties with the Syrian government, despite their 2012 rift when the leader, Khalid Mashal, left Damascus for Dara, Qatar. Hanna told Sputnik that his organization maintains the politics of the axis of resistance, which is a reference to Iran, Hezbollah, and Syria. So you see, this is Israeli state propaganda, of course, to say that, we're just fighting Hezbollah, we're fighting Iran and Syria as a reason for bombing the Syrian government, which the Syrian government has nothing to do with it except that, you see how this is all bullshit. Syria, its people, and its regime have always stood by the Palestinian people, and that's a fact, The fact is, though, is that, yes, because even though Aram has nothing to do with Ishmael, the fact that Syria, has many sects in there, mostly Sunni and Shia, and I already explained the Sunni and Shia, but nonetheless, though, Syria, it ain't just the direct Syrian descendants, which are of Aram, which are better known as Armenia. Syria, pretty much, you would almost say that it's, they call it the Syrian Arab Republic for a reason. Nonetheless, though, continuing on, all we wanted was to distance ourselves from internal problems that were taking place in Syria. We hope that security, stability, and civil peace will return to Syria and return to its regional role. And that's just it, though. Syria used to be prosperous until, United States got, and of course they do everything for Amalek. Hamas previously maintained close ties, and I can't read it because of this bullshit in here. Withdrawal from Syria created a rift between them and the government. For years, Syria had provided Hamas with training facilities and bases. However, once the Syrian war broke out, Bashar al-Assad with Qatar, who opposed the Syrian government. So, in other words, Qatar, which we know that they're trying to have their way in Syria. Despite the previous rift with Hamas, Syria continued to maintain close ties with many Palestinian groups, including the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PFLT, Fatah al-Intifada, DFLP, and PFLD-GC. And nonetheless, though, this is all guises so that way Israeli state has a reason to attack Syria. And this is from SANA, Syrian Arab News Agency. Syrian Arab Army destroys dens in Idlib southern countryside in retaliation to their breaches of de-escalation zone agreement. Yeah, because they constantly, the hypocrisy. Oh, well, the terrorist groups can reform and attack, but, the Syrian Arab Army cannot retaliate. Well, that's just simply not true. Nonetheless, though, they'll be condemned by the UN and everyone else for, pretty much defending itself. Oh, but they'll say that Israeli state can defend itself. Right. Idlib countryside, Syrian Arab News Agency reporter said that the units of the Syrian Arab Army retaliated to breaches of the de-escalation zone agreement by Jabhat al-Nusra, destroying a number of their dens on the outskirts of al-Habat, Qasa, and Tamala and Sara in Idlib southern countryside. On Wednesday, Syrian Arab Army destroys vehicles and dens of Jabhat al-Nusra terrorists in the town of Kafar, Sajana, and al-Bara village in Idlib southern countryside in retaliation to their frequent breaches of the de-escalation zone agreement. Speaking of Gomer and all his bands, is another article from Press TV. EU reporter further deterioration in Turkey's rights economy. The European Commission says Turkey's EU membership bid is slipping away and talks on the issue will remain frozen due to the country's human rights record and its economic policy. Right, but they pretty much, blew the whistle on the Khashoggi murder, right? Saudi Arabia could get away with murder, but, man, don't let Gomer get away with it. Not that I'm on Gomer's side, because they're fucking Amalekites, too. The EU's executive arm said on Wednesday that Turkey's bloc membership negotiations are stalled due to further serious backsliding on human rights, judicial independence, and stable economic policy. In its annual report on Turkey's progress toward membership, the Commission said that Turkey had continued to move further away from the European Union. Turkey has been trying to accede to the EU since the late 1980s, and formal accession talks eventually started in 2005. Negotiations have effectively come to a standstill, the Commission said. The bloc's executive arm accused Ankara of enacting limitations of freedom of speech and freedom to protest, saying the government had negatively affected financial markets. Serious backsliding continued in the Turkish economy, leading deeper concerns over the functioning of the country's market economy. See how hypocritical this shit is, though? But Saudi Arabia can murder people and they don't give two shits about that. Why? Because Saudi Arabia has more oil than Turkey. And not to mention, Turkey has their own side. They play both sides. Relations between Turkey and the EU have been strained for several years, especially after the July 2016 coup attempt against the Turkish President Erdogan, with Ankara said that was masterminded by U.S.-based Operation Cleric Fatah Gulen. Yeah, and it was a failed attempt. So pretty much, though, they pretty much are breaking away from the EU. Got another article here. Iran strongly rejects Saudi claims about Tehran's regional interference. Yeah, because the only one interfering here is Saudi Arabia and its allies, which is the Israeli state, Amalek. A senior Iranian foreign ministry official has strongly denounced fresh claims made by the Saudi Arabia about what Riyadh describes as Iran's meddling in the internal affairs of regional countries. And remember, Persia, just like Magog, is a guard unto these countries, and the Syrian Arab army, led by Bashar al-Assad, actually asked for their help. So it's not like they just came in like Turkey has, and just started fucking around. No, man, they were asked to help. So there's a big difference there, but, of course it goes against Saudi Arabia, who's sending terrorists into these countries. And, of course, we know that, Persia also protects the people of Yemen, even though you haven't seen Persia directly enter into Yemen. Yet at the same time, though, they are killing their people in there, because that's what this war is about. The Islamic Republic considers the accusations thrown by the Saudi foreign minister at the conference to be invalid. Reza Najafi, the Director General of Internal Peace and Security Departments at Iran's Foreign Ministry, said, adding that as one of the founders of the 57-member OIC, the Islamic Republic wishes the gathering would be used to reinforce unity among the Muslim Ummah. And that's just it, though, is, of course, that WWE is going to be going to this place, Jeddah, very shortly here, because, of course, they want to promote Saudi Arabia. They have, and a lot of wrestlers have actually stood against it. John Cena refused to go, as well as Daniel Bryan. Many others are refusing to go. But, of course, we know Vince McMahon is sucking cock of Donald J. Trump, because they had a hair versus hair match. And that wrestling has always played into politics as well, because they, like Apostle Tahar puts it, America is McDonald's, and Donald J. Trump wears a Ronald McDonald suit. Well, we know that Vince McMahon also wears a Ronald McDonald suit because, hey, you can call him Grannis, okay? Let's just call him Grannis. Let's call Vince McMahon Grannis, or the Hamburger, because that's what this whole thing is. America's a fucking joke, it's just another McDonald's corporation run by the Rothschilds, which means Red Child, which means Edomites. Opening a gathering of the foreign ministers of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, in the Saudi port city of Jeddah on Wednesday, the kingdom's foreign minister, Idris al-Asaf, blasted Iranian interference in other nations' affairs and urged firmness and determination over the recent mysterious attacks on commercial vehicles off the coast in the United Arab Emirates. And I can guarantee you that Iran didn't even do that. This is a false flag. This is a false flag narrative, so that way they have a reason to attack Iran. And we know that these are proxies to, say that there's a reason for attacking Iran because, the rest of the world has actually condemned this war. But nonetheless, so this war and rumor of war, really won't kick off until after the Mark of the Beast, and this being the year Karagma, they're going to push the mark really hard. They already are. And here's another video from Press TV, those news agency that has been banned from YouTube pretty much, because there's a lot of truth in their videos. Well, anyhow, this is what's going on as well, concerning Idlib.
And Andrew, he is a political commentator and analyst who is joining us via Skype out of Ontario. Mr. Andrew, it's good to have you with us. Tell me how you see the current situation in Syria under the current circumstances.
That al-Jafari is sending a very clear message to the U.S., Israeli, and Saudi-backed forces inside the country. They are currently going to be moving forward into territories that are held by these foreign-backed militants. And they're also essentially complaining about the attacks being made on civilians, that if you don't stop, we're going to have to attack these positions and destroy these militants that you're controlling. Now, he also does mention directly the foreign forces inside the country, many of those being probably specifically the United States, and that the advisors helping out with the Kurdish forces in that particular region. Basically, they're saying that the drive to take the entire country back from the terrorists includes mobilizing against the Kurdish forces, who have essentially captured many of the Arab lands and evicted many of them from their homes and essentially claimed domain over them. All this done with U.S. military presence and the blessing of the U.S. military. This is part of a larger strategy to balkanize the country now that it's very clear that the terrorists that they have been funding inside the country will not be able to overthrow the Assad government. Essentially, what I believe that the Syrian government is doing is telling these U.S. forces that the whole plan to recapture the country will soon be a part of invading these areas as well in order to recapture them. And that will put them up against directly foreign forces inside the country. They're warning them that this is coming and don't complain to us when you start getting attacked, because this is Syrian territory. This is Syria. It belongs to them, and they have every right to take it back from U.S.-backed forces.
Of course, Jason, he also mentioned, Mr. Jafari, in his speech that all foreign forces must leave the country. How do you see the possibility of them and the Syrian forces going, perhaps, any sort of encounter?
Well, I think essentially Syria is going to tell them to leave or warn them that they're coming, and then the U.S. will probably refuse to leave. Other foreign forces will refuse to leave, and then once they get attacked, they'll probably turn around and use this as a justification for sending in more forces into the country. Most likely, the way I foresee it going out is possibly a U.S. advisor dying in one of the attacks, and then the U.S. claiming that they were on the same side as the Syrian government in the fight against the Islamic State, and then turn around and use that as a justification for attacking the Syrian government. We've already seen in the past that they've used other such incidents, such as the fake chemical attacks, the ones being carried out by the terrorist forces inside the country, as a pretext for doing so. We also previously saw U.S. President Donald Trump order the bombing of essentially a Russian airfield inside the country. So the U.S. carrying out these kinds of attacks or using these kinds of justifications for violating Syrian sovereignty is not beyond the realm of possibility.
And of course, Jason, you mentioned those chemical attacks, like Mr. Jafari again warned against them. But how do you see the possibility of the same scenario repeated again, where chemical attacks are conducted and the Syrian government is framed for that?
Well, thus far, the frame job has been relatively good. Much of the world has believed the attacks, despite the glaring holes in the official stories. Even the leaked internal document from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons essentially denies the official account that they gave of the attack, saying that the physical evidence did not match up with the claims that came out in the report. And the official report did not match up with the eyewitness accounts to the events. I think that it's probably likely that the United States will carry out such an operation through their proxy forces inside the country, possibly carrying out another chemical attack against the public, and trying to blame the Assad government and then say that this is the red line that they simply cannot pass. I think that this is very likely, given the fact that it's very clear that the Syrian government is going to win this war against the foreign-backed militants inside the country. The U.S. needs, and Israel as well as Saudi Arabia, need a justification for coming in and weakening the government forces in order to prop up those militants.
Mr. Jason Andre, political commentator and analyst out of Ontario, thank you very much for your time.
And this next video is We're Still in Wars and Rumors of Wars part, which is a good way to start out these videos as you look at these events. And it's kind of funny because this is another video called Angel of the Apocalypse YouTube channel, though it comes from an Islamic perspective, though. But they are telling you, though, that Armageddon begins. U.S. is going to war with Iran, and it's showing you the false flags and just things leading up to this war, which we better known as Ezekiel's prophecy, you know, the battle in the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, you know, and we're seeing this build up to that, so even they know.
They're fighting a massive invasion. Total devastation.
It appears that there's something like shadowy figures.
And this was a false flag.
Get out of here right now. Lucas, if you could just come back, please. Oh my God.
See what I'm talking about?
When you
Angel of
invade a place
Islam?
for its resources, you wipe out the indigenous population.
So either way, this is the build-up for World War III, the Third World that's coming quickly. And before this goes full scale, they'll just keep on doing false flag attacks like this until they finally enter. But remember, the mark, Karagma, has to pass before it goes into full-blown war. You see how they're kind of giving their own scenario to this?
Is at war. Tensions are escalating between the U.S. and Iran as an American warship sails toward the Middle East. U.S. aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln has officially left the Mediterranean Sea and passed through Egypt's Suez Canal.
The warship was deployed earlier this week in response to threats from Iran. The Mideast country has dismissed the move, accusing the U.S. of engaging in psychological warfare. Joining us now is CBS News State Department reporter Christina Ruffini.
So you see the rhetoric.
Washington. Good to see you, Christina.
Morning, guys. How are you?
So the deployment of this warship to the Middle East comes as the U.S. is also imposing additional sanctions on Iran. So what's behind the Trump administration's decision? They've always saber-rattled, but why are they doing this now?
You can tell by listening to him that he's a homo.
Sanctions targeting?
So the new sanctions go after Iran's metal exports, aluminum, steel, copper, iron. If you remember, the U.S. has already targeted Iranian oil production, and those two natural resources make up the lifeblood of basically what remains of Iran's economy. This, of course, was in response to the news this week that Iran said it's going to stop complying with parts of the nuclear agreement. This is a sector of the economy the U.S. hasn't really targeted before, but it's keeping with what it calls its maximum pressure campaign to get Iran to change its behavior and, quote, act like a more normal country. But normal countries are able to export their natural resources onto the global market, and this will certainly make it harder for Iran to do so.
So, Christine, have we seen anything happen so far? I know that Iran said that it was ready to start to process some of the nuclear material that it has, but have they actually done anything?
So they're not making a nuclear weapon. I think some people hear this and think, oh my gosh, they're making a bomb. That's not really what they're going to do. What they are doing for the moment is holding on to more heavy water and enriched uranium. These are elements that you need to make a nuclear weapon. What the JCPOA did, and that's the Iran nuclear agreement.
And remember, that was always Benjamin Netanyahu's provocation. Oh, they're building a bomb. They're building a nuclear weapon. Iran has nuclear weapon capabilities, the rhetoric as to why, Ronald McDonald, the one wearing the suit, Chump, said, though, that pretty much he, is pulling out that it was a bad deal, which he actually said that he was going to do that even before he became the president, if you recall, the new Ronald McDonald. So nonetheless, though, Donald McDonald and the American corporation, which is McDonald's, as we now can prospectively put it that way, metaphorically speaking, man. All this rhetoric building up. This is their witchcraft to make you think that Iran's an aggressor.
Was it limited the amount of time that it would take for Iran to go from zero to having a bomb. That's called a breakout time. They wanted to make sure that Iran was at least a year away from having that capacity. If it changed its mind and all of a sudden wanted to make a weapon. Now, Iran is saying it might be taking steps to shorten that breakout time. The U.S. has said that would be a very serious concern, but the U.S. is no longer in the nuclear deal. And it's the result of U.S. sanctions that have caused Iran to take these steps, because from their view, they say that the U.S. limited basically it's a carrot and stick deal, right? And the U.S. took away all the carrots, and Iran says it's sick of getting the short end of the stick, basically.
In which we read a lot of these articles. You see, they know. They know that this will be the war to end all wars once, they officially attack Iran.
The other developing story, the U.S. sending an aircraft carrier group to the Middle East to send what it calls a clear message to Iran. The USS Abraham Lincoln and support ships have been dispatched. The carrier was due to dock in Croatia on Wednesday. U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton says it is in response to troubling developments in the region. The latest U.S. effort aimed at increasing pressure on Iran. Gabriel Elizondo is live for us in Washington. So, Gabriel, this is part of a White House statement that was put out that explains this further. What did it say?
Yeah, it's a very unexpected and unusual statement from the White House. It came a little bit before 9 p.m. local time here in Washington on Sunday night. Totally unexpected. The statement was short, but it did mention that, and it's from John Bolton, the National Security Advisor, but it said, as you mentioned, the U.S. is going to be deploying the USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Force Group. It's an aircraft carrier plus some ships around it, plus some bombers to the Middle East region. And I want to read part of the statement that's key. It says, they're being sent to the region to, quote unquote, send a clear and unmistakable message to the Iranian regime that any attack on the United States interests or on those of our allies will be met with unrelenting force. Statement just goes on to say, in part, the United States is not seeking war with the Iranian regime, but we are fully prepared to respond to any attack. Now, there's two key things that need to be brought up here. Number one is that this particular aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, had already been deployed from the United States on April 1st. So it had already been on a deployment. And as you mentioned, it was supposed to be in Croatia May 8th through 11th, docked there for some normal procedures. But it appears that now it's being diverted to the Middle East region. Now, it's not unusual for aircraft carriers and battle groups such as this to be deployed to the region, the Gulf region, as a deterrent to Iran. But what is unusual is this. This is a pretty significant deployment here with the bombers. It's not just a normal aircraft carrier. It's really a battle group, if you will. And also what's unusual is that normally the White House would not issue a statement with such bellicose language, basically saying we're sending these military assets to this region, specifically looking at you, Iran, which is essentially what John Bolton said there. I want to just conclude briefly that just within the last half hour, the Wall
But it
Street
is what
Journal
they're saying.
newspaper here in the United States is
See all
reporting
that double talk?
that this decision to move this aircraft carrier to the region was just made within the last couple days after meetings
So at
throughout
least
the
they're
weekend.
flawed.
That according to the Wall
Benjamin,
Street
not
Journal,
a Jew,
at least one
bringing them into
source
this
that they
war.
have in their article that just came out said that this is due to new intelligence that's been received by the United States, new intelligence of Iran possibly moving some military assets around that could, according to the Wall Street Journal, jeopardize U.S. assets or U.S. Interests in the Gulf region. That, according to the Wall Street Journal. Beyond that, though, no other information. We did reach out to the Department of Defense. All they did was confirm to us this deployment of this aircraft carrier and the bombers, but beyond that would not give us any more details.
And this is from another brother, I believe Brother Zion, from GMS Great Waters 3. But nonetheless, though, this is pretty much just, about the proud, that the proud will cease in one day, in 1 hour, And that's, of course, talking about Esau. But listen to these loud, proud Edomites, man.
Shalom, giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honor to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well. And as always, giving a sincere shalom to the house of David the elect. Alright, I'm the brother Zion, and this is going to be a response video to this video which was uploaded on Fox News, and it's entitled, Iran threatens U.S. fleet with dozens of missiles if they attempt a move. Alright, Iran threatens U.S. fleet with dozens of missiles if they attempt a move. Alright, and obviously, these Edomites were talking. There was one Edomite, he was interviewing a lady, I believe she was some type of expert, forget the name of it. But I just want to show brothers the pride of these Edomite news anchors, man. Because here it is, your beloved America, okay, that you so-called settled on, okay, your beloved America that your forefathers stole, raped, robbed, and murdered for it. Okay, you honestly believe in your heart that this place is never gonna go down. Okay, so what I want to do is I have it pulled up to around 5 minutes where they were talking about the capabilities of Iran. Okay, and just watch the pride on these Edomites' faces, man. Watch how they word their sentences when they're talking about these other nations and their capabilities. All right, so here we go.
One of the leaders there in Ayatollah. Their billion-dollar fleet, meaning us, can be destroyed with one missile. If they attempt any move, they will face dozens of missiles because at that time officials won't be in charge to act cautiously, but instead things will be in the hands of our beloved leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. In other words, they're saying they think they can destroy our warship with one missile. Talk about talking a good game. Is that even at all in any realm of reality in the universe plausible at all?
Typical rhetoric.
Do you see the pride dripping off these damn devils, man? Okay? Do you see the pride dripping off these devils, man? Did you hear what this guy said? Okay? Simply because another nation says that they can destroy one of your ships with one missile, in your mind, that's impossible. Because you're the great United States of America. Nothing can touch us. But pretty soon, you devils, man, you gonna come to a realization that you're not untouchable, man. Because Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai is gonna make these other nations touch you, man. Alright? Let's rewind that one more time. And rewind it one more time.
From one of the leaders there in Ayatollah. Their billion-dollar fleet, meaning us, can be destroyed with one missile. If they attempt any move, they will face dozens of missiles because at that time officials won't be in charge to act cautiously, but instead things will be in the hands of our beloved leader, Ayatollah Ali Kemani. In other words, they're saying they think they...
Now, when this Edomite, he read this quote, all right, you can only imagine what's going through his mind, because you can see by his response that he was baffled that Iran would say this about the United States. Okay? He was baffled, man.
Can destroy our warship with one missile. Talk about talking a good game. Is that even at all in any realm of reality in the universe plausible at all?
Typical red.
Now, why wouldn't it be possible? Now listen to this Sheetamite. Listen to her response. Typical rhetoric by Iran. Blah, blah, blah. Typical rhetoric, You fucking devils, man. You got some nerve, man. That's why the Most High... Let's get this precept real quick, man. Then I'll go back to the video, man. Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 2. Matter of fact, let's start at 1, man. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord power, concerning Edom. All right? These are Edomites, man. Damn, Salakia.
Rhetoric for them, and
As a matter of fact, let's run it back again. Then we'll get the precept. All right, then we'll let it play. All right. So, the vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord power, concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. I have Salakia. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. And who is this talking about? Concerning Edom. Okay? Concerning Edom. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. And you devils are greatly despised, man. That's why you got these nations threatening you, man. Because they don't like you. They don't like what you stand for. They don't like your way of life. Why? Because you're the devil that the Bible speaks of, man. Okay? And everything you touch and everywhere you go, you bring death. Talking about you damn Edomites, man. You so-called Caucasians. Everywhere you go, you bring death. Anyway, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? And that was the same exact attitude that this guy had, man. Let's play the video. That's the same exact attitude he had. Who shall bring us down to the ground? Is that any way, shape, and possible? And is that in any realm? Is that even possible that they can destroy our ship with one missile? Yeah, it's possible, you damn devil. Because the Most High gonna put the spirit on these nations to shoot missiles on you and take you down, man. Fucking prideful ass Edomites, man.
The leaders there in Ayatollah. Their billion-dollar fleet, meaning us, can be destroyed with one missile. If they attempt any move, they will face dozens of missiles because at that time officials won't be in charge to act cautiously, but instead things will be in the hands of our beloved leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. In other words, they're saying they think they can destroy our warship with one missile. Talk about talking.
Take a good look at this damn Edomite, man. Take a good look at this guy, his response, man.
The game, is that even at all in any realm of reality in the universe plausible at all?
Typical rhetoric for them, and I would say no, they don't have that capability. But Eric, it shows you how.
And that's why you Americans are sitting over here so comfortable, man, in the land of unwalled villages. Okay, in the land of unwalled villages, you sitting over here comfortable, thinking can't nobody touch you. And that's why this world's gonna overtake you as a thief, man. Because of this bullshit that they selling you. And that's why you Americans are stupid, man. You stupid as hell, man. And then here's this damn Edomite woman, man. Typical rhetoric. They don't have the capabilities. You don't know what they got, man. You don't know what they got. You don't know what they got over there, man. For all you know, Russia can be supplying them with particular missiles that you don't know about, man. You devils don't know shit. And excuse my French, Because you got a lot of people that get, oh, they always cussing, man. Man, shut up, man. Here it is, it's about to be all hell breaking loose out here, man. And you offended over some damn speech, man. The spirit is fired up, man. Alright? And it's about to be a time of death. A death season is getting ready to roll around, man. And if you ain't prepared for it, it's going to overtake you, man.
Bad their intention is. Iran does have at least 10 separate types of ballistic missiles deployed or in development. This is not a state that we can trust. They've made the threats about moving towards enriching uranium. Everything they do, worst diplomats in the world, reckless, stupid, and I don't think they have that capability.
Well, what about you Edomites? You can just go around the planet Earth and drop bombs on people and kill quote unquote innocent children. You can go around the earth and steal everything, man. Listen to this devil, man. Just listen to her. You can go around the earth and steal everything, man. But you'll call these people the worst people on the planet. But you can go around the earth and you can steal everything and suck the resources out of people's lands and bomb them. All right. Even when you look on the comment board, man. All right. This guy right here, this first comment, pickle jars for Hillary. Iran threatens to use catapults to launch camels at U.S. ships. Now this guy's being sarcastic, man. All right, but when you go to the responses, all right, Iran is not quite the pussycat Iraq was, and this guy, Antifa veteran says, yeah, these dumb Americans are going to get a real reality check soon. Alright? And this guy, Jody Holmes, you will get a reality check when you're fighting on the front lines. Alright? But these people, some of these Americans, they might actually, they're not completely bugged out of their minds. I'll say that. Alright? But let's get back to the video.
Everything they do, worst diplomats in the world, reckless, stupid, and I don't think they have that capability, but the fact that they would threaten it is all the more reason for us to deploy our forces, work with allies, and keep pressure on to get some change. We cannot live as a world with this regime for the next millions of years. They have...
Well, they probably feel the same way about you devils, man. They can't live in a world with you devils, man. The only solution is to just get rid of you damn Edomites, man. All right? Cause I mean, that's why the scriptures say, "Oh, thou most proud," man. You know? "Oh, thou most proud." And pretty much what I'll do is I'll just end it on this and close it up. Cause I can't get over the look of this devil's face, man. After he reads this quote,
One missile. If they attempt any move, they will face dozens of missiles because at that time officials won't be in charge to act cautiously, but instead things will be in the hands of our beloved leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. In other words, they're saying they think they can destroy our warship with one missile. Talk about talking a good game. Is that even at all in any realm of reality in the universe plausible at all?
You devils are done, man. All right, you're done. You're completely finished, man. Shalak Rayam to the nation of Edom, man. All right, hopefully this was edifying. All praise to Yahweh. And you know what? They're going to try to label us terrorists and make the tables turn on us and connect us to all, to all types of madness. But Yahweh Shemiah Shai is working, man. We ain't worried about you devils, man. We just going to have faith in that day and gird up our loins like men. All right? To the next lesson, Shalom. Hopefully this was edifying to the elect. Shalom.
And this is GMS Enduring Faith, man. And, we're all on the same page and we're all speaking the same thing. Acts chapter 2 all over again. The fact is, though, is that these fucking devils, these Edomites, they're fucking going down. And it's really good to watch others stand up to this fucking tyrant, man. Because that's what America's been, is a tyrant for a very, very long time. It's fun to see the fact that people ain't afraid of America anymore, you know? And the fact that when it comes to bullshit like Memorial Day, man, ain't nobody celebrating that like they used to, man. You know, having good old barbecues and, hey, man, bad weather has been happening almost every time these Edomites want to celebrate something, man. Bad weather just comes along, you know, storm clouds gather, and then you know, and we'll be getting into that after we look at this video here from GMS Enduring Faith. You know, the brother that teaches in both Reno and in Sacramento, whom I've also met, along with the San Francisco camp, man. You know, I'll never forget my day out there, you know. I was very well received, and I've been corresponding with him for almost a year before I finally got to meet him face to face, you know, just, and we're on the same page. You know, pretty much what's happening is this place is finna go down, and like everything else, though, we also know that, you know, especially after Car Fire, I knew that Car Fire was just scratching the surface a bit. That eventually, yeah, the martial law will come in. I mean, pretty much Car Fire was similar to that, but that's just a taste of what's about to take place. And yes, we must prepare for Jacob's trouble, as it's already here, and eventually it will hit America, you know. Venezuela's been a testing ground as well as these other places, man. Brazil, you know, the oil and all that that's been going on, the economy shut down. We're seeing everything get shut down. We're seeing store closings. Nonetheless, though, the pride and arrogance has deceived thee. You know, the sword is being sharpened for escalations and the third woe that's coming quickly.
All right, Shalom. I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakah Kodash. I also want to give double honors to my apostles and elders at Great Millstone, and honors to all you fellow laborers that are kicking His word, His sincerity, and in faith. Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakah Kodash, Barakathum, to all you sincere listeners. Yes, I want to go into a lesson on this video, and this is foreshadowing what's to come. That what? There's going to be more and more wars that sweep the earth. And this is all just different theaters, different battles, or different stages within the bigger World War III. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video. This is the Vice President Pence, the recently graduated cadets. He just let them know what it was, man. Because these people, they might have joined, you know, because they wanted some officer rank, you know, they wanted a good paycheck. But guess what, man? You're going to have to fight. All right, you're entering World War III.
Some point in your life. If you didn't notice the words in the background, that was Mr. Vice President talking to the...
They got Jake, first cadet that you see is Jake. You know they're going to put Jake in the dire straits, man, in a bad situation. Wherever Jake is displaced. Whether it's in Venezuela, whether it's here, or whether it's in the Valley of Jehoshaphat.
Graduates of a top-class U.S. military academy. And that wasn't it. How do you like this degree of certainty?
It is a virtual certainty that you will fight on a battlefield for America at some point in your life. You will lead soldiers in combat. It will happen.
So, what is the second most important official in the country trying to make clear by that? The good old boots on the ground will certainly be on the way to quite a few different places. After all, come on, no one in this world would dare to send an army against America to put up a fight there. Nobody will realistically send soldiers to attack the superpower of all superpowers. And so...
men and women of West Point, no matter where you're deployed, you will be the vanguard of freedom.
Here they are, the future ambassadors of freedom. You look at their faces, and frankly, it doesn't seem they're in raptures over what Mr. Pence is saying. But let's hear where in the world we might expect to see a boost in freedom in the days to come.
Some of you will join the fight against radical Islamic terrorists in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Oh, right, which they're supposed to be exiting Afghanistan, but see, Esau don't want to exit nowhere, man. He want to stay there. His desire is as death and hell.
These are familiar places where the process, so to say, began a while ago. Soon it will be 20 years. Any more destinations?
Some of you will join the fight in Europe, where an aggressive Russia seeks to redraw international boundaries by force.
Probably in this area, it's a bit of an exaggeration that the graduates will find themselves on a battlefield. Taking part in NATO's big war games there? That's more like it. At least for now, it's only been in the form of drills. For now. And finally, the most curious part.
And some of you may even be called upon to serve in this hemisphere.
It won't be rocket science for you to figure out where the boots on the ground might be marching off to next in the Western Hemisphere. Venezuela, where, for the White House, it's a classic. All options are on the table. Plus, we heard from the opposition big guy there, Juan Guaido. He wouldn't mind at all.
It reflects this administration that has been gunning for a war in Iran, for a war in Venezuela. It seems to think that the U.S. is allowed to do regime change in other countries.
Yep, that's the spirit of Esau. I'm going to go ahead and end there. There's just this Edomite chick talking. But this is the book of Daniel 12:1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. Yeah, and that's the time that we're coming into. Excuse me, that time of trouble. That's why Esau is mustering up all these troops, man. He's getting all these cadets ready. So I just sent all those troops over there to the so-called Middle East. Because we're coming into that time of troubles, which is unprecedented. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Right, so that's the flip side of it. Because there's going to be mass destruction and it's going to be great deliverance of the men of the Lord. And those that pertain unto the men of the Lord. And what Esau is doing right now is, Ezekiel 21:9, Son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, say, a sword is sharpened and also furbished. That's right, and that's what Esau is doing, because Esau, he's making it known that he's getting ready to really come out with his blessing. You look up that word furbish, marat. You go ahead and look it up. Excuse me. To polish, but by implication to make bald, to gall, also to sharpen. That's right. So Esau is sharpening his sword. That's why he's getting all these troops ready. That's why he's having all of these different war games. Because pretty soon a bigger war is going to break out. Because there's already wars, man. There's wars everywhere. Okay, you got Esau involved in wars in Yemen. Okay, he has economic wars with China. Still in Afghanistan and Iraq. Still meddling in Syria. See, so there's war everywhere because pertaining to the book of Habakkuk, 2nd chapter, like that Edomite was speaking of, Esau thinks he can just go anywhere. Habakkuk 2:5. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, which that's talking about his different doctrine. Democracy, feminism, homosexuality, so on and so forth. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. That's right. So Esau don't want to keep at home, man. Esau want to go and steal from everybody else. All right, and bring it back so he can prolong his empire. But see, those days are at an end. Because guess what? Now these other nations are saying that they're strong, like I say in Joel, the 3rd chapter. And these other nations, they're prepared for it. Who enlarges his desire as hell and is as death and cannot be satisfied. That's right. And that's what, excuse me, that's what Esau's intent on. He's intent on bringing mass death. But guess what? The Heavenly Father wants to bring mass death. So he's actually going to allow Esau to kill a whole lot of people. And is as death and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. Yeah, and who does he use? He uses these jarheads. That's what they call them. Using different soldiers to go and accomplish his agenda, man. Which is why he told those cadets, hey, look, you're gonna fight. And when I saw that video, it reminded me of Chief Justice Roberts. he was getting questioned by, I believe it was Joe Biden, back when he was a senator, and he said, "Mark my words, you're going to have to vote or discuss or make a decision." I believe that was his word, on pretty much the RFID chip. I don't remember if he said those exact words, yet when you examine it, he was pretty much talking about the RFID chip. So that was a foreshadow, which is what Pence just did with those cadets, man. He let them know that, look, you're going to be used to enlarge America's desire as hell. And you see those cadets, you see probably 50, 60, 70 years ago, the different military personnel, they would be more excited. But see, them cadets, they didn't look excited. They didn't take it seriously. Some of them looked frightened. Because this is real, man. It's about to get intense. And they said, okay, this side of the hemisphere, and you think it's just talking about Venezuela. Nah, it's talking about right here in America as well. Why? Because martial law is going to be declared. There's going to be all types of uproars here in America, which is hard to imagine right now because everybody is so juiced out and docile. However, there is going to come a time when these different militias that are being formed right now rise up. They're not going to regard the government, and they're going to call in the military. They got Interpol, international police to come in. Some military personnel, they're going to break off and start their own militias. It's going to be all-out chaos. And the only way that you can survive this is if the Heavenly Father has a spirit on you to endure. Let me see what else I got. I'm going to end right here, Genesis the 27th chapter. Yeah, because Esau is getting ready to use his blessing to the max. And he's sharpening, he's perfecting it. This is Genesis 27 and 38. And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing? My father, bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above, and by thy sword shalt thou live. That's right, and that's how Esau lives. He lives by the sword. That's his strength, his military might. And really what's happening is that's deceiving him. Because Pence, he was talking in great cockiness, man. However, that's what's deceiving him. Because little does he know that's going to be his downfall. Jeremiah 49:16. Thy terribleness have deceived thee. That's right. That terribleness is talking about your sword. Because you read Hebrew Edomites, you've wrought terror upon the earth by way of the sword. And that has deceived you because you think that you can just keep doing the same thing. And you're not even regarding the fact that these nations, they've caught up to you. They know exactly what you're doing because you do the same thing every time. And so they're prepared for you. Thy terribleness have deceived thee, and ultimately the Heavenly Father has deemed that this is your end, man. Because you made the world as a wilderness. You totally just crushed people's spirits. People are just done out here, man. So now the Heavenly Father is going to take you down so that the earth and all that is therein can be rejuvenated, can be renewed, so people can live again. Thy terribleness hath deceived thee, and the pride of thine heart, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. Right, dwellest in the clefts of the rock. That's talking about you Edomites, who call yourself white people. You call yourself Caucasians, going back to when you lived in the clefts of the rock. That holdest the height of the hill, though thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord Yahweh. That's right. And you've been going down ever since you went and started setting up your space stations. You've been going down since the 60s, really, the late 60s, early 70s. And that's in the minds of these different nations. That's why they're so bold now. Because they saw that you lost Vietnam. Okay, they saw that Esau, as the Russians, lost in Afghanistan. So these other nations, they're a little more emboldened. All right, and they're gonna come against you, Edomites, and they're gonna prevail. Even those that you once were at peace with, like it says in the book of Obadiah, I believe that's verse 7. Those that eat thy bread, even them, they're gonna prevail against you. Hey, because a lot of these countries you're going into, you're planning on invading now, were just your homies, a couple of decades ago. And by this, back in Genesis 27 and 40, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Yeah, so thy sword shalt thou live. That's the point I want to concentrate on. By thy sword shalt thou live, which is why Pence is getting ready to send them simple-minded cadets wherever he wishes, man. Under the orders of the elites. All right, so I just wanted to touch on that briefly. Hey, war is here, man. Hey, it tells you in Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, to everything there's a time and a season. All right, and we're definitely in a time of war. That's all that's in the news. War, controversy, contention. All right, shalom to the elect.
And like everything else, the thing that's going to protect us in this time of war, as well as this being the year Karagma, and things leading up to it finally being pushed, because this will be the year that Esau pushes it, you know, we are now standing on our own 2 feet, and we got to just keep on enduring this, as this brother had put up this video.
Shalom, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. All praise to the Most High, whose name is Yahweh, in the name of His Son, which is Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit. Rakah Kodash. Salakit. Peace and salutations to the elect, the 1/3. Double honors to the elders and the
I believe this is GMS Northwest,
better known as the Great Millstone. And death to 2/3 of the nation of Israel, which consists of so-called Negroes, Latinos, and North American Indians. You know, with knowing the name and understanding this knowledge, being given this truth, it's a serious topic, and a lot of guys treat it lightly. And a lot of their videos of them speaking is just a, you know, it's not edifying. You know, a lot of times, well, you've seen lately with this group, the branches of Baltimore, you know, they're in no fear of being snapped off. You know, they're just totally rebellious. And, it becomes more and more apparent and more obvious how hypocritical people are, you know, especially when it comes to the doctrine. They'll say to not follow men, but yet there they go. You have to follow somebody. I mean, Yahweh Shai gave us instructions to follow men on earth, and people even said Yahweh Shai was just but a man. They said, is this the man? Is this he, you know, from here? Isn't this so-and-so's son? Those are statements and phrases of, oh, he's just a man. And even Paul said, follow me, you know, because he's a follower of Yahweh Shai. It's 1 Corinthians, I think it's 11:1. Okay. Now, I want to read this. This is Matthew 10 and 32. Whosoever therefore shall confess me before men, him will I confess also before my Father which is in heaven. But whosoever shall deny me before men, him will I also deny before my Father which is in heaven. And that right there is key, because it shows the power of the name. You know, the name is very, very important. You have guys that downplay the name, and then you have guys like Vocab who mock the name, who crucify the name, and he's gonna have hell to pay, when he himself, being a so-called scholar or theologian, you know, paid money to go to a school, when the Lord said, freely have you received, freely give. I mean, this knowledge is not for sale. You're not supposed to sell this knowledge to receive the spiritual gifts that come, you know, the fruit that is born of it. So you have these guys basically who are blaspheming the Holy Spirit. They're slandering the Spirit that the Most High said He would put out. Matter of fact, one of my favorites. And this is something that was going to happen 2nd Ezra chapter 1, 35, your houses will I give to a people that shall come, which not having heard of me, yet shall believe me, to whom I have showed no signs, yet they shall do that I have commanded them. They have seen no prophets, yet they shall call their sins to remembrance and acknowledge them. I take to witness the grace of the people to come, whose little ones rejoice in gladness, and though they have not seen me with bodily eyes, yet in spirit they believe the thing that I say. So right there, this is talking about the Israelites, okay, who would be dispersed and have the falling away, okay, and the Spirit would be put on us to believe even though we've seen nothing. You got to remember, back in the day, in the ancient world, Israel and were witnessing these miracles and these things to strengthen their belief, but a lot of them doubted, and they preferred men, the company of men, over the company or a power of the Spirit. So you have a lot of guys that are blaspheming the Spirit, which is a big no-no. You're slandering and discrediting the Spirit of the Most High, that it would be put upon Israel. Okay, 12 different tribes who have been dispersed, who consist of the Negro, Latino, and North American Indians. Not the Negroes only. Okay? And you got guys that are blaspheming the name, the language, the heritage, the culture, the teaching, the doctrine, you name it. But the main thing that they slander, or blaspheme is the Spirit. It's the main thing that they slander is the Spirit. Saying that that these things did not come by the Spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. So, I guess you could say this is a warning to them, and something that those of us that believe can rejoice in. I'm going to end that there. Shalom.
Not that I'm trying to boast upon myself and all that, but, given an example of what the brother from GMS Northwest was talking about is, keeping the name, confessing the name, and confessing who his characteristics are, that, he's not Caesar Borgia, he's not that false made image, especially, if you live in an Edomite town like I do, which pretty much we all live in Edom anyways, but nonetheless, though, we confess the identity of Yahweh Shai, and not being afraid of the name, or to even use the name. Check this out, and this Edomite walks by, to my knowledge, because I don't see what's behind me, but he comes walking by, and so what am I going to do? I'm going to confess the name Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. I'm also going to confess who he really is, because everybody else thinks that he's just Jesus Christ.
By the same devil. Libya's been devastated by this same devil. Yemen's been devastated by this same devil. So we sigh and cry for those things, because we are scattered among the four quarters of the earth. And the fact is, though, is that, the more and more we sigh and cry, the more he will hear us, especially when we call upon his true name, Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, and not calling on those other names, because those are other deities. Caesar Borgia is a spirit of this world, whom they ignorantly call Jesus Christ, is not even the true image of the Most High, because it does not match any biblical description, especially in Romans, or in Revelation, chapter 1, verses 13 and 14, roughly paraphrasing, but he has hair white like wool and feet like undefined brass, as if burned through a furnace. So they definitely don't want to worship him of that looks like a Negro. No, of course not, because it goes against their Edomite supremacy. Because they want to believe, because their handlers, the Rothschilds, had set up that images, because the Borgias are another part of the Rothschilds, and Rothschild just means rad child. So the Borgias, set up that image, and that's the false prophet, in these days, So, a lot of people like to say that the false prophet is the Pope. Well, he's just one of many. Though Caesar Borgia was the son of a Pope, and that's just it, though. False prophet,
is really truly Christianity in the guises of Christianity. Not just the image of Caesar Borgia, but the image that they set up in the essence of, you have to worship us, our military power and might, just worshiping everything about these fucking Edomites. But nonetheless, though, I say that this is the way that you handle things like that. We confess who his true name is and what he looks like, as well, and that we denounce, we detest any other image. That's why IUIC is definitely going to pay for using the name Jesus Christ, which that's the image of Caesar Borgia. So pretty much to reiterate what the brother from GMS Enduring Faith had stated, like I said, I've corresponded with this brother and still do to this day. I'll hit him up and check in with him. But nonetheless, though, you see it, man. That the rest of these nations, they hate Esau. And so I'm just going to pretty much end it on these verses, going back to Obadiah, starting verse 2. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. And these Edomites are despised by all. That's why Iran, Persia is not the only one saying death to America. Hey, we say death to America and death to you 2/3. But the rest of the world also does, because they hate America and they hate all these fucking goddamn Edomites. The pride of thine heart has deceived thee. Thou art that dwell in the cliffs of the rocks, whose habitation is high. That said in his heart, who will bring me down to the ground? So they don't think their empire is ever going to fall. Thou, though thou shalt exalt thyself as the eagle, and thou shalt set thy nice among the stars, thence will I bring thee down. And that's just it, though, as they don't think that this place, America, will ever be attacked, and all the rhetoric that you always hear. Well, listen to this, and this is what's coming, Jacob's trouble. If these thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? Yeah, because Esau's going to pretty much take everything, man. He's about to bring in that martial law and has taken everything, drains the resources of everything. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of the Confederacy have brought thee even to the border. And that's talking about, pretty much, though, this war that's being mustered up, because the Most High is mustering this up. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. In other words, the allies are going to turn on America and prevailed against thee, that they eat thy bread, have laid a wonder under the tree. There is none understanding in him. Shall I not in the day, saith the Most High, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of the mount of Esau? And that's what's happening, man. They, nobody really even fucking gives a fuck, when the president comes on and all that, because they know he's just a talking head, We laugh at him. If we watch the presidential speech, it's because we're laughing at his ass, his arrogance. And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, to the end that everyone on the mount of Esau may be cut off by the slaughter. A great slaughter is coming, and it's because of this. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Yeah, they're trying to revise history to take out the slavery part, to try to hide that. But, man, you can't stop prophecy. It's already out there. You've been proud for far too long. Everybody knows about America's history. And, the more we confess it on the streets, like I did with that Edomite, the more we confess Yahweh Shai and call upon the name and worship him who sits on high, the Most High, in his true form, not these Edomite forms that they put up. They're gods, because calling upon Jesus Christ or God or Yahuwah, and Yeshua, are not his true names. That's blasphemy, pretty much. And now that we call upon the true power and we come into repentance, In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered in his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou wast as one of them, you know. And that's just it, though, is, you know, all nations were partakers in this, you know, getting into Psalm 83 a bit. But thou should have not looked on the day of thy brother in the day. And that's why all these nations are getting jacked up by the sword, by Esau Edom, that he became a stranger. Neither should thou have rejoiced over the children of Jehoiada in the day of their destruction. Neither shouldst they have spoken proudly in the day of distress. And that's what happened. They all, you know, pretty much had drinks and celebrated, and, you know, the fact that we went into slavery and we didn't even know who the fuck we were, and they still want to try to keep up the lie. You know, that's why all these images, you know, even in Syria, they have removed a lot of images. They have some of the original images there, but, you know, they pretty much, you know, went along with the Roman Catholic Church, with Esau Edom. All were partakers in this, and that's why, you know, pretty much like the walls of Jericho, that's why we're seeing the downfall of our enemy. So I hope all this has been edifying, and until next time, death to America and death to you 2/3. Bracha the Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakal Kadash, Brakathum.